What we preach here at Cyber PR. We are now live. Hi, Charlie.
Hi.
I'm so happy to have you here. I did a very brief intro, as you heard, but I would love for you to intro yourself. And I'm going to turn volume down so we don't get bouncy sound. Okay.
Cool. Well, yeah, thanks so much for having me. This will be fun. It'll be fun to do something together. Yeah, I'm Charlie Faye. I have been an independent artist for about a decade and a half now, always self-managed. And I guess I have kind of tended to do things my own way a lot of the time and want to come up with just new ideas about how to make things work. So like back in 2010, I decided I would do a tour where I lived in a different city each month for an entire month and put together a local band and write and record a new song in each place. And I felt like that would kind of help solve the problem of, how do you build a fan base in places you've never been? And so that was a great experience for me, just trying something kind of out of the box like that. More recently, I have had a project called Charlie Faye and The Fayettes. It's a retro soul girl group, kind of like a modern day Ronettes or Supremes type thing. And it's so much fun for me. And seeing opportunities and definitely for me for years. So in addition to being so, I give the perspective of who's done it as opposed to someone who has more of a background. I'm giving the artist perspective. Especially since we've been quarantined. Let me check my internet connection.
Yeah, I lost you on the StreamYard, but I do still have you on IG Live.
Let me try again here.
And Kayla, I know you're watching. If you could text me on the office phone, I need your help because we've got really bouncy sound here. So I kind of hear everything Charlie's saying twice, both on the StreamYard and on the IG Live. So would love any help you can give me via text. So yeah, if you can pop back into StreamYard, that's great. Otherwise, we can continue on here. And I can actually turn it up so people will be able to hear you. So talk to me. Where are your clients at right now, Charlie? Where are you at with, should you keep holding on? I know if you read the news, it's a disaster. Coronavirus is spreading. COVID-19 is not going away. I think it's making a lot of artists incredibly anxious about should they release? Should they hold off a little bit longer? Our party line around here has been, please go ahead and do business as normal because we ain't going back anytime soon. But I'd love to hear, what are you advising your artists, and are you going on a case per case basis, or what are your general thoughts right now?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in agreement with you. We don't know when this is going to end. So, what are you going to do? Hold your record for potentially 2 years? I mean, we hope not, but we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen and how long we're going to be like this. And even once things do improve, we don't really know at what point the touring concerts are going to be a thing again. And I think people still need music.
in their lives, you know, and also people are at their computers and getting entertainment online more than ever because they can't go out and do other stuff.
Right. Right.
So I think it's a perfectly fine time to release music. The feeling is definitely different, and you know, everybody knows that, you know, and so I think if you're releasing music now, that's going to be, you know, something that you take into account when you're doing interviews. People are going to be asking you how you're coping with things, so you should be thinking about that too.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely would not hold back on releasing music right now. I have one client, a great artist, who actually has been sitting on a phenomenal record for almost 2 years now, you know, just pitching to labels and stuff. And that didn't end up happening for her, but this record is so good, you know, and she's ready to release now. And so I feel like go for it. Let's do it. Let's go all out. And the resources are all there still, you know, not the live touring, but, you know, publicists are still in the office, radio still exists, all the streaming services are a go. So, you know.
Do it. Yeah, just do it. So, you know, the one thing that we have really noticed, it's our artists who took the time to build their mailing list properly, took the time to have real relationships with their fan bases, didn't cut corners, didn't pay for fake Facebook fans or, you know, pay to pad their Instagram numbers. They're the artists that at this point, I think, are seeing much better results because they have a true relationship with their fans. How do you go kind of backwards in time with your clients that I just spoke to an artist yesterday, for example, who said, you know, we gave up on our mailing list years ago because we moved everything over to Facebook, and now they're definitely regretting that colossal mistake and saying, you know, part of what we're going to help them with is getting the newsletter back, getting those email addresses back so that they can be more in control. How are you helping your artists to get their arms around their fan bases so that the communication is in their control?
Yeah, good question. You know, I would say for the most part, the artists I'm working with have a good fan base, maybe not huge, but like a good, you know, loyal following, even if small. And, you know, even if you just do have, you know, a couple of people on Facebook or on Instagram, I think if those people are really behind you, you know, when you do a live stream, ask them to share the video. Then, you know, other people will start seeing it and catching on, like, oh, so-and-so's always watching this
artist. Maybe I should check it out. You know, it's like someone inviting you to go see a band play, you know, 3 times in a row. Eventually you're going to go, okay, well, you know, maybe this is worth seeing. And then at that point, you know, trying to capture those email addresses. Of course, there's a lot of stuff you can do with Facebook ads to targeting people who have been active on your page to get those email addresses. That's not really my department of expertise, but I know it can be done.
Yeah. I mean, the way that we're advising people is, you know, basically just try your hardest to ask fans. If you have to go and DM on Facebook, if you have to send a DM on Instagram, try to engage them and say, hey, the real value for me is in my newsletter or in my text messaging list. And it's a pain in the ass, but to ask one fan at a time, it can really have an impact. Especially when you're trying to go for Spotify pre-save campaigns, if you're trying to build up a little bit of action before, it's crucial that you actually can connect. How are you running, or are you helping your clients to run Spotify pre-save campaigns, and how have those been going in the age of distraction?
That actually is not, that's not a thing that I end up being that involved in. I deal with more like overarching project management, and like timeline stuff and team building, so I would probably get someone who was more of an expert on Spotify involved.
Got it.
And I don't want to pretend, to really know what I'm talking about when it comes to that stuff.
So take us through, what does a timeline, and obviously it looks very different for each artist depending on what their release date and vision is, but take us through a little bit about like, how do you organize a timeline for an artist, and how much time, like they call you today saying, this is ready, I want it out, let's go. How do you organize them, and how much time do you recommend so that they can actually get all their ducks in a row?
Yeah, I normally would recommend at least 6 months, between the point when you've got, final mixes in hand to a release date. Mm-hmm. And then a lot of that's going to kind of vary based on, are you going to be working with a publicist? Well, you're going to spend time like reaching out to the publicists you want to work with. And then, what if the person you really wanted to work with doesn't have time until, first quarter next year? Then, are you going to rush to get it out with your second choice person sooner? Or are you going to just wait a few more months? And I find the most common mistake artists make is to rush it, and the world doesn't really care if you release your record in, September or January. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It's all the same. What makes a difference is how great the art is, right? And how prepared you are going into it. So, another thing that often happens is someone says they're almost finished with a record and starting to think about, scheduling a release show and this and that. And I try to get people to hold off until the record really is finished, because mm-hmm. sometimes it takes longer than you think, and you don't want to put yourself in a time crunch and compromise the end goal.
Yeah, totally. And I think, that can happen often where something just happened with us with a distributor, and all of a sudden it's not ready. CD Baby currently, because of COVID and a lot of people releasing, is really backed up. So when it used to take us like a week, it's now could take 2 or 3. So we unfortunately learned that the hard way with a client. We had to re-announce a release date just this week. So that totally sucked. But yeah, so it's all about, I think, especially in this day and age, give yourself extra padding, several weeks extra padding, just because it sucks to have to announce that you're putting music out and then be like, just kidding. Or you have to come up with
there's never an issue with giving yourself too much lead time, right. And not only can you run into stuff like that, but even if you don't, it can get really, really stressful, And as an artist, like, you're just not going to be your best self when you're that stressed out. Yeah. So give yourself time.
Okay. So a long runway is definitely key right now. What else have you been adjusting for your artists and for to have a positive effect when you do release it for this specific time?
Well, obviously, touring is not an option, and so release shows or release tours are going to look different. And I'm really trying to get everyone I work with to come up with a creative way of doing a release show or doing a release tour even. like, can you do a virtual tour where you're on, you're on the social media pages of that venue in Oklahoma City, and then the next night you're on the social media page of that venue in Nashville. So you're kind of doing that tour, the way you would be physically, but you're doing it virtually. That's one idea. Another thing is just making a release show special any way you can. Think about what's special about what you do, what your fans love about you, and really try to give them that even in that virtual performance. Of course, inviting special guests is always a great idea. Just getting as many people involved as you can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I saw recently an artist that I've known for many years, Big Head Todd from Big Head Todd and the Monsters. He had a tour booked, and he did exactly what you said. He was in a different venue's streaming page and his own every night. And he did something quite clever, which was obviously he really had to think this through and mixed it up. For your super fans, if you are going to do a virtual tour, you have to be really careful that you're not doing the same set every single night. Mm-hmm. And he obviously has many years and many albums worth of material, so it was very easy for him. He could do like a whole album on one night, or like a special, he came up with like some really cool and creative ways of not kind of repeating the same thing over and over. So you kind of have to think like the Grateful Dead or the Dave Matthews Band or Fish, like you've got this audience now that's coming every single night. Are you going to give them the same offering? Because you are going to absolutely lose them if you play the same set.
Right.
So I think that that's a really interesting thing to think through during this time. For any of you that have questions, please post comments. Charlie is here to answer any questions about releasing music, as am I. So let's talk also a little bit about how do you roll out a plan? Are you helping your clients on the social media side of the house? Are you helping with the general marketing side, or do you leave that to them to plan?
Really what I do is I serve as kind of a temporary manager. So I'm not working social media, but if the artist doesn't want to or is not really equipped to do that themselves, I will help find somebody to bring on board for that, and that goes for everything, for PR, for if they're going to do radio. So, I start by sitting down with the artist and really talking about what their goals for the release are, because everybody's different. Some people are interested in really like building a local following. Some people are aiming for national visibility. Some people want to tour, not right now, but some people want to tour, some people don't want to tour, and everyone's goals are different, and everyone's means are different too. So those are kind of the two things I look at, like, what is it that you really want to do? And now how can we take the resources you have and get you there the best we can? So we kind of start by looking at the artist's goals, making a plan. Then we build the team. We get a publicist on board if they want a publicist. If they have a budget for it, we can work with a radio promoter. We can work with someone who specializes in social media, or playlisting, whatever it is that really aligns with the artist's goals. And I definitely help with the team building aspect, but I encourage the artists to do their own research. I think it's really important for an artist when they're looking at different team members to work with, like, okay, I'm going to hire a publicist. I'm considering these few different people. You may talk to 3 different people on the phone and be totally bowled over by the enthusiasm of one person. But I really encourage everyone to dig deeper, do a little research. I always think it's great to speak to other artists who have worked with that person. And that goes for anyone, especially people who don't necessarily have to invest as much time to make their money from you. You know, you want to talk to other artists and hear, yes, I feel this was so worth it. This person had my back and really worked hard for me and got me good stuff. Or, you know, even this person worked really hard for me and I loved working with them. They didn't get me Rolling Stone, but that's okay. You know, your expectations have to be realistic, but I think it's important to hear that other artists had good experiences with the people that you're going to be teaming with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And I think often artists can get really starstruck by a publicist or a radio promoter, the over-promising that sadly does go on. And then they're really, really disappointed, especially for emerging and newer artists that are just trying to get their footprint. Just because a publicist works for a giant household name artist, and they might know the editor at Rolling Stone, or they might know the person at NPR Tiny Desk, or they might know the person at the coveted newspaper, magazine, publication, blog, Pitchfork, whatever. That does not mean that it's your time to get there. And so, you know, really asking if you are going to be hiring a team, saying, you know, where do you really think? Yes, I know you're going to try for those larger publications or those larger outlets, but like, let's have a reality check. Because I think that when you're releasing music, especially right now, a lot of artists have come to us and they've said, you know, I've been in quarantine, I've been really inspired. I made a track for nurses, doctors, rescue workers. Okay, so did everyone else. And not to take away from that, it's an amazing thing to do that, but we've had a bunch of artists that feel like that's a really special thing. Unfortunately, it's something a lot of people have done. It's not a huge news angle. The huge news angle is in there somewhere, but it's been, you know, we've tried to get these types of songs onto larger publications, but household names are also doing that. So it's very, very hard when you have sort of the same genre or something of the same ilk and you're releasing it, which is why it is so critical and important to have your own fan base of people that you're marketing and promoting to. And I love publicists and radio people when it's appropriate, and hiring playlisting companies. We also not only do it, but also advise when we feel like it's not the right project for us. We help our clients to find the right teams, but really understanding that your release starts with you, starts with your fan base, and starts with how you're going to communicate and what your planning really is. Like that 6 months that Charlie talked about, it's really, really important. Hammerstrand just chimed in from Periscope and said a unique selling point is definitely important. And I agree. I couldn't agree more. Really,
I mean, you have to continue to innovate even at home. So you can't do, you know, any of those interesting touring things that you might come up with. You have to find a way to innovate at home. And I really believe there are ways, like, you're an artist, you're creative, like this is a part of your creative process. So, you know, find a way to do it that's different.
Yep, totally. And do something unique. I think that's also key. And I think now thinking about how can you interact with live streaming, you know, how can you stop and acknowledge the people that are actually there? Is that, I mean, that might not be part of your brand and that might not really work with what you do. You have to also think that through. Like, is it okay for me to kind of chat between songs and, you know, shout out to people that are there, etc. So a very dear friend of mine, Rebecca. Hi, Rebecca. She is asking, I'd really like advice for a large music group in terms of staying visible at this time. They have a few albums out. She's trying to get a general idea. I'm going to call out who this is. It's the Count Basie Orchestra. So there's an enormous issue. Obviously, there's, I think, Rebecca, correct me, are there 30 plus people in that band? So A, their orchestra is not getting together. B, they're used to doing very high profile gigs like giant jazz festivals. What would your advice be? How can they stay visible at this time? I mean, I think maybe a Zoom where they record a song in quarantine or play live might be an interesting way.
Yeah, or I mean, I would say it doesn't even have to be live. You know, if you can get everybody to record a part at home and then get it mixed beautifully, and have everyone video themselves at home and get that video edited beautifully, I think people would love to see that.
Okay, I exaggerated. It's 18. It's only 18 members, not 30.
That's okay. You know, I have a 7-piece soul band, and I'm struggling with basically, you know, if you're anything other than a solo artist or like a duo who lives together, like you're struggling with this same problem.
Yeah. And then Rebecca's saying, you know, the band is from all around the country, and that's also a problem. But I mean, it's not a problem because everybody's got a camera in their house and they can now do that. I was really inspired by a chorus line in quarantine where several cast members from the Broadway play each reenacted the opening. They all did the dance, and then they threaded it all together, and it was amazing. So I think that's something that could certainly be done.
Yeah,
and it was actually fun to see everyone at their home. I mean, everybody they lived a different way. They lived in a different place. Some people chose outdoors, some indoors. So I think that's a good way of.
Yeah, I actually saw I saw a thing with dancers doing Swan Lake, you know, where I think not everybody, but a lot of them were in their bathtubs. Like, people got really creative, did cool stuff. You know, and obviously dance is a much more visual art, right? You know, but I think there's a lot of cool stuff you can do with video right now. I mean, for the orchestra, you know, have everybody have a camera and record their part, get someone to mix it together, then get that video editor and add a visual component too. Get dancers to be a part of the video. Everybody is working from home right now. Artists anyway, are not doing what they normally do. So They may be up for new things.
Yeah. Jackie Marushka just said, I did a campaign with a symphony and they broke down pieces of music instrument by instrument. So exactly, that's one way that Count Basie might take that on. And that's a brilliant way of showcasing a large amount in one place. Obviously, it is so much easier. We showcased an artist here last week, Rich Aveo, and it's Rich and his wife, Kat London, and they live together. They're quarantined together. So it's much easier, obviously, for them to hop on and do an Instagram live or any live together. Hammerstrand says, podcasting from home, you could give lessons on different instruments. And I think that it's not necessarily about releasing music, but I think creating podcasts is a really interesting, new, and exciting thing that a lot of artists are doing. And I think creating a podcast around your release, what inspired you to record the specific songs, telling stories, maybe telling the journey of creating that album, and creating a full podcast, which really gives your audience an audio deep dive, is a wonderful marketing tactic. And then obviously you've got another asset that you can use on your social channels. You can put it in your newsletter, you can send it out, and it gives people an additional asset to listen to on top of your release. That's a very cool idea. Jackie says they got into the meat of what each instrument's special, and they profiled each player. So that, again, is like another super cool thing that you can do when you get creative with video, right? You can showcase what's special and unique about each person. I love that. Have you worked with any of your artists, Charlie, on sponsorships, or have any of your artists, are they sponsored, and how did they go about sponsorship?
No, I haven't worked with any of my artists on sponsorship. Although I am seeing fans really step up during this time, you know, in a way that was actually surprising to me. People are sometimes making better money off of virtual shows than they would normally off of a live show, because I think there's this feeling of like everyone wanting to support each other, and especially knowing that that performers aren't able to access their normal revenue stream. Fans are really stepping up to support, you know. So I would say you may have more backing there than you may even know.
Yeah, I agree. Totally. Yeah, it is time to get creative, and I think it's when you're especially planning a record release, a single release, an EP release, whatever it is you're releasing, there's all these moving parts, right? And it's so hard with all the moving parts to try to organize yourself. Someone just said the pandemic is not going to end for another year. Yeah, unfortunately, that's true. Let's read the rest of that comment. Okay, so the question is, what strategy, Charlie, can artists take for the long haul, considering we are in this probably for another, unfortunately, year? Do you have any very long-looking strategies that you've been helping artists with?
Well, you know, I would say it really depends on where in your album cycle you are. You know, if you have a record ready to go, like we were talking about before, don't sit on it until the pandemic's over, because it's going to be a while and we don't know how long. So find a creative way to release it, get it out there, because people are listening. If you do not have an album in hand, guess what? You have some, well, unless you have young children, you have some real time on your hands to work on writing for that album or recording that album if you have those capabilities at home. So I think really hunkering down and trying to take this, you know, kind of forced isolation and do something. You know, spend all the time writing that you normally would spend driving to gigs. Spend that time developing your fan base too. Like, time is really different right now. Yeah. So take advantage of it however you can. Take your time creating your art and building your fan base and setting things up the way you want to. And then, you know, if you really are ready to release, you do that and think about what comes after the release. Yeah. How do you keep that momentum going? Because you don't want to be having that post-release come down in the middle of the pandemic. Yeah, totally.
A dear friend is asking, do you think that bands and singers will go down the route of playing from their homes or gardens or lawns, as many venues are struggling with the impact of the coronavirus? I had a nice chat over the weekend with Justin Trawick, who's an artist based out of Washington, D.C. He's doing something really creative right now, which is he is doing social distancing mapping. So he's gotten a lot of friends who have large backyard to send him, like, okay, this is the width and the depth. And he sells only 25 tickets, and he draws out where everyone is going to sit, and you only sit with the people that you're quarantined with, and everybody has enough space. And he has already booked like 15 or 20 shows and he only sells 25 tickets. It's $25 per person, and he guarantees that, you bring your own wine and your own snacks, and everybody sits in their quarantined area in a large enough backyard. I think that that's an interesting model right now, and he's making money doing it, and it's keeping him and his girlfriend, because they play together, going right now. And I think that that's a really creative and interesting solution that Justin is coming up with.
Definitely. Here in Texas too, I've seen a couple of drive-in shows, which I think is a
there was
idea.
There was one here recently. Southside Johnny did it out in Asbury Park. And so, what does that look like? They do it in like a big parking lot or a field, or
I think it was like just in a big open field, and everybody stays in their own car.
Yeah. Hey, Tony. Asking, nightlife sucks. Let's all buy a trailer and have concerts in backyards. Yes. I think that is something that we're definitely going to be seeing more and more of. Of course, when it gets cold, that's not going to be easy, but I like this sort of creativity that people are, these times deserve creative solutions, like Charlie just said, and taking your time to think them through is super smart. Wow, we are coming up almost on the end. If anyone has a burning question for Charlie about releasing music or strategies to take right now, I think we've got time for one more before we get kicked off the old IG. For those of you, and all the other platforms, obviously, for those of you who have questions and you're a little bit too shy to answer, you can always DM us. We will do our best to answer them. And of course, we will send a rebroadcast. Charlie, how and where can people find you online?
Well, if you're looking for my music, that will be at Charlie Faye and the Fayettes.com. If you're looking for my consulting, that'll be at charliefaymusicconsulting.com.
Excellent.
And I'm pretty easy to find on Facebook, Instagram, all the social media. So you can always just send me a message and we'll chat.
One really positive note just come in. I think it's a really good way to end. One positive from the lockdown is the opportunity to get to know artists in their home instead of on stage. And yes, I think that is that's a true thing, and it's nice. And I think I'll add to that, it's really helped us. Although I was looking at Alicia Keys at home last night, nobody look at that. If you want to feel really horrible about yourself, look at Alicia Keys at home. But for those of you who are not Alicia Keys, oh my God, her house is like, I think it is. It's really personal and really intimate to come into someone's home and to have them invite you. And I agree.
Actually,
and that's a positive way to end this. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, I was going to say my friend Betty Sue, she actually did a house tour. So she did the first week was from the kitchen, then the next week was the living room and the bedroom. And it was
I thought you meant like a house tour.
She even made like a tour poster and a t-shirt with like, all the locations of the tour. And I just thought it was a great idea.
That's hilarious and awesome. Very, very cool. There you go. Creativity abound, even in this very weird and scary time. Thank you for joining us, everyone. Stay safe. Put your damn mask on. Come to us. Ask us questions. We're here. And we'll see you next week. Same bat time. Thanks, Charlie.